They say all great stories wind up being trilogies. Here we go again. So, as time has gone on, we began to notice that the PC was starting to have trouble running some of the newer games coming out. We were starting to see some pretty bad stuttering in places, and neither I nor Todd could figure out why. Not to mention, rendering things in Blender was getting painful, as we were trying to do some more complex things, and it was taking a long time for them to render, so I asked Edgy if we could do a full PC upgrade. Damn, these new games are torturing our graphics card right now. It might be the CPU too. It's several gens behind now. Todd, please tell me you aren't suggesting what I think you're suggesting. It might be time to upgrade again. Oh, hell no. Hell nah. I ain't dealing with that fucking case again, man. Plus, have you seen how expensive graphics cards are right now, dude? I ain't made of money here. Actually, graphics cards are going down in price. Wait, for real? Yeah, they are. Still, man, that fucking case. Edgy was right to be concerned about the PC case because, last time was a pain in the ass. What fucking universe does a full tower case not support a standard fucking hard drive?
Calm down, we don't need you melding the parts. I'll go on Google and look this up. There's gotta be a way, right?
So neither one of us was in a hurry to mess with it again, but then I remembered something. Man, I just don't want to deal with that bullshit right now. Well, we've dealt with it once already, and we won't have to worry about the hard drive problem again, so it shouldn't be as bad, right? We can get the motherboard and graphics cards out of there without touching the hard drives or the power supply. Alright, fine. We'll upgrade the damn PC. What the fuck is going on in here? We're upgrading the computer again. Ah, shit. It shouldn't be as bad as last time. The plan was pretty simple. We set it on a 12th gen i5 2600K, a Pro Z690 with Wi-Fi, and it was the DDR4 version because we couldn't go with the DDR5 one since we couldn't find DDR5 RAM at a reasonable price or enough of it for what we wanted to do. Speaking of RAM, we decided to upgrade to 32 gigs of RAM because that would maybe help with rendering videos and Blender renders too. We went with an RTX 3080 for our next graphics card with 12 gigabytes of VRAM because again, rendering. I don't understand any of this computer shit, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. All I knew was we were getting a better system. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it, Jeff. We ordered everything and then we had to wait a week for all of it to come, but there was just one problem. You see, we had to look up if replacing a motherboard and processor meant you had to reinstall Windows 10 or not. The answer to the question is not the clearest thing, because you technically don't have to, but it's recommended that you do, or some people recommend that you do. And the reason why you might not have to is because Windows will just install the drivers for the new hardware automatically. So you should be good to go in theory. But other places and other people and tech YouTube and stuff were saying the exact opposite, and that you should reinstall Windows, as not doing a clean install can cause problems with the new hardware because the drivers for the old hardware might still be there and they may even try to run in the background and that could slow down your computer or cause problems. And knowing our luck with computers, we decided to play it safe and go through the whole reinstall. But there was just a few obvious problems with that. That meant that we were going to have to lose some software, specifically Office and Adobe, because there's older versions that were not subscription based. And I tried to find product keys for those versions of the software online, but yeah, Microsoft and Adobe scrubbed those from a lot of places, so I couldn't find shit. So that meant we either needed to bite the bullet and deal with the subscription bullshit, which I am not a fan of, or go open source. For Office, going open source wasn't that big of a deal because I've been using LibreOffice on and off again for a while. But for Photoshop, it looked like our best option was GIMP.
Well, bring out the GIMP.
The other thing was the Windows license. We had to find our product key by digging through the registry, And then we had to get everything backed up. Well, we backed up what we needed because some stuff we honestly didn't need and it was just junk from years ago that we never used. And the backup took several hours. And then we had to deactivate Windows on our computer. Then came the assembly time and we're off to a terrible start. Are you sure you got all the motherboard screws out? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Let me double check and make sure there isn't anything on the back that could cause a problem. Yo, how's it going in here? The motherboard ain't coming out. Oh! Neither Todd or myself realized it was a stupid idea to be disassembling the PC right in front of our primary monitor until the motherboard plopped out of it and slammed to the panel, leaving a small but kinda noticeable scratch in the screen. Yeah, that was a certified Jeff moment. Hey, after that, we got the motherboard out and then we started working on the new one. So the last time we installed a motherboard, the standoffs for the motherboard did not line up with the ATX motherboard we had. Well, I'm saying motherboard a lot, holy shit. But this time was a bit different. We had to install the screws in different holes, even though it was supposed to be for an ATX. As far as I know, ATX boards are supposed to have like a standardized places for the screws, but whatever. It fit. We just didn't follow the damn manual because the manual was on some dumb shit. We did have something funny happen. I mean, it wasn't funny when it happened, but afterwards it was pretty funny. We second guessed ourselves and thought we put the CPU in the socket the wrong way. So we went to double check it, and when we opened the socket, the CPU came flying out of there and hit me right in the face. Todd, you alright, bro? I think it chipped my glasses. Even the computer's bullying Todd. Turns out we had it right the whole time too, which makes it even fucking funnier. Then we had to set up the cooler and... oh boy, this was a fucking mess because of the product page. On the page on the site, it didn't say in specs that you could use this cooler with the socket type we had, but if you scroll down into the details later on, it said it was compatible. But when I opened the box and looked at the instructions, it didn't say what to do for the socket type we had. I thought we were in trouble, so I went to the product, like the site for the actual product directly, not through Newegg, and it said it was supposed to come with a compatible bracket, but there was only one in the box and it was the one that comes standard. So I began to panic and Edgy was beginning to rage out.
You mean to fucking tell me they didn't give us the compatible bracket? What the fuck?
Calm down, let me check the manual on their website. I am so glad that I checked the PDF manual they had on the site, because get this, it showed the instructions for how to use the bracket for an LGA 1700 socket. We just had to turn the bracket a different way and mount it sideways. Thermal take, would it kill you to put the goddamn update in the physical manual you put in the fucking box? I don't know if Newegg just sent us one without the right manual or what. I don't know who's to blame for that shit. But that was just added stress that we did not need. We did have to fight with the screws that are supposed to go in from behind, but after that, we had the cooler set up and all the mother parts were in there and ready to go. Then it was just a matter of cabling everything. Only thing that was an issue here was hooking up the pins for the buttons in the front because not all of them were labeled and the manual was a little bit confusing until I realized the way they were oriented and the diagram was upside down. Once I figured that out, we were good and we got it all hooked up. Then it was just time to put the graphics card in. You're probably wondering when this becomes a nightmare. Well, it's about to. We just didn't know it yet. Okay, this graphics card is a chonker. Getting it in the case and line up with the PCIe slot was way more of a challenge than it should have been, even with flippers. We had to get Jeff to help us angle it in there and get it lined up without scratching the motherboard or damaging the connector or whatever. When we got it hooked in, it was time to boot this thing up. Please work, please work, please work, please work, please work, please work, please work. Thank you. We spoke too soon, but we just didn't know it yet.
And the business, we call this foreshadowing.
We went ahead and updated the BIOS, but we didn't have a free flash drive on hand. At least I couldn't find one. The only other one we had already had the Windows installer on it, so we really didn't want to use that yet. So we used an external empty hard drive that we just had lying around. I'm not even sure what the hell that was originally for. But we installed the BIOS on that and then updated it, connected it to the computer, then updated it. This took a long time, and at this point it was going on midnight. The computer booted up to our old settings and programs, and I was almost tempted to just leave it as is, but Todd was leaning towards no, go ahead and do a fresh install, so that's what we ended up doing. Even with all of our important stuff backed up, that was still kind of rough. Took a while too. Then we ran into several problems, and no, we still haven't gotten to the major one yet. That's coming up in a minute. We didn't know about it yet. You see, we had to reactivate Windows 10, which we expected. That was fine. So I gave it the product key. It said the product key was invalid despite me using it for over 5 years. What the actual fuck? At this point, it was so fucking late, I did not feel like dealing with Microsoft customer support, so I just went ahead and bought Windows again. That wasn't the only software we had to buy again either, but that was nothing to compare to what happened next. We decided, since we were getting everything set up and it was already super late, might as well go ahead and get most things set up. We began installing NVIDIA software for the graphics card. We ran into a problem. You've gotta be fucking kidding me. What does that mean? It didn't detect the graphics card? Todd, did this card come with an install disk like the last one? Maybe we have to install that first before NVIDIA will detect it? I don't think it did, but let me double check. So, unlike our 2070, the 3080 did not come with an install disk, but there was a file path in the manual to get some utility files, so we downloaded that. That software would not install either. So, the graphics card was not being detected, and at this point, it was past 1 a.m. Edgy was so tired, he didn't even get that mad, honestly. I was kind of surprised. I tried to go into Device Manager to see if it was there at all, like if the computer really just was not detecting it. It wasn't. You want to check to show hidden devices. There was nothing there. Looking online and looking through forum posts, this most likely meant that the card was DOA.
Please tell me I did not just drop $1,000 on a busted-ass graphics card.
There's some things we can test to know for sure.
Like what?
Well, we have 3 PCIe slots. Let's test them all tomorrow and see what happens. It might just be a bad slot. I could not sleep after this because I was worried that the problem was the motherboard itself and not the graphics card. I was really hoping, as weird as it sounds, if there was a problem, it was the graphics card, because if it was the motherboard, we'd have to replace everything. And fuck that, man. Not only would we have to replace everything, we'd be out of a goddamn computer until all the replacement parts arrived. And I really needed that fucking computer. So nobody got any goddamn sleep. I mean, I did, but then again, I got high as shit. Jeff, shut the fuck up. So we double checked the power cables to make sure everything was hooked up properly, because Todd was thinking that maybe the card wasn't getting enough power, because it did light up, but none of the fans were spinning or anything, so we thought maybe it wasn't getting enough power. Turns out one of the 8-pin power connectors was loose, so we thought that was a solution. It wasn't, still not being detected. So we tried the other PCIe slots. Those didn't work either. Finally, because I was just pissed off at this point, I decided to grab the 2070 and plug that in. That worked immediately. So yeah, it was a fucking card. Sweet, looks like it's working now. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to demand a refund. Just fucking great. I was so goddamn tired at this point, I didn't even bother requesting a refund until the next day. After I got all our old software back, I was just done. I was like, okay, we'll deal with the graphics card shit some other time. Just wanted to play some video games or something. But some of the software I just had to outright buy again because the product key I had was just no longer valid, because I guess they no longer supported that version of the software, which is kind of bullshit, but whatever. But next day, went to Newegg, demanded a refund. Their site kept saying it wasn't eligible for one, and the worst part was the refund option kept disappearing too. I had to jump through like 50 fucking menus to even find it the first time. So I demanded customer support because I was afraid I was going to be stuck with a high-end paperweight. Thankfully, I got in touch with somebody there, and credit where credit is due, this guy was polite and super chill, very understanding, especially after I explained all the things I tested to show that yes, it is the card and not the computer itself. And that guy set up the whole refund thing, got a return label, well, not a refund, a replacement. So they were going to issue me a replacement as soon as they got the busted one back. Unfortunately, we never got that replacement because Newegg was out of stock and they had no idea when they were going to get more stock. Because since people were aware that the card's prices were going down, people were buying them up, of course, as one does. So they ended up just refunding us, which was fine. And even with the old GPU in the computer, it was still noticeably faster. We didn't have any stuttering, as far as I could tell, as we did in the games beforehand. I guess it really was just the old CPU that was bottlenecking everything. Granted, we didn't see a huge increase in frame rate, maybe like 5 or 6 more frames, but the frame rate was more consistent. I decided to wait a couple weeks before ordering another card, since the prices were still going down. This time I just used Amazon. And what's funny is I got a card that was similar in specs, had the same amount of RAM and all that shit, but it was about $200 less. So that kind of worked out. When that card arrived, I put it in there and it immediately worked like a charm. I just had to install some other software. And the only issue I've had with it so far is Streamlabs recording. They were stuttering like crazy and this became a pain in the ass when I was trying to get footage for the Resident Evil video. But all I had to do was switch to codec and Streamlabs, which I looked that up online. It took me about 5 minutes to figure this out. And it works fine. Renders or Blender were super fast, and games ran way fucking better. I could even turn on ray tracing now without games turning into a goddamn slideshow. I still don't use it because honestly, I can't tell it's on in most of the games I have. Although I haven't tested it with Quake 2 RTX yet, and maybe we should do that. Yeah, maybe. Oh, and don't forget about that. What was it? The Ethernet thing? Oh yeah, right. So, and this is on me because I didn't realize this. The Ethernet that the motherboard supports is newer than what we have installed in the ship. So, and it has a different cable, and I didn't know this has a different cable. And the cable I had would not fit into the slot. So I had to order a USB Ethernet dongle thing and use that, and that seems to work just fine. That really wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah, not really. Plus you had Wi-Fi on the board, so it's not like you had to use Ethernet. True, it's just faster. Yeah. But let's play some Quake 2 though, just to see how it runs. Yeah, sure, why not? Fuck it.